fronts. Over there in Asia, everything up. Well, not everything. Nikkei down and Hang Seng down. But Shanghai went up. How come? We'll see. And over there in Europe, everything down. Here in the States, down. Oil, beep, up a little bit, and gold up a little bit. So, again, the Nikkei was down. Hang Seng was down, but that Chinese market was up. And what good news? Yep. China's September exports and imports in September tumbled, coming in well below expectations. Dented by weak demand at home and abroad. You've heard me say this now for a couple of years. If the Americans and the Europeans aren't buying, the Chinese aren't making. And if the Chinese aren't making, all of those countries that are exporting things into China, well, they're not selling. And that's why you have low commodity prices. And again, let's go back to all this talk coming out of Trump and everybody else. Hey, that Chinese yuan, is down to 6-year lows. That's right. And exports still stink. Exports in September tumbled 10%, and imports fell 1.9%. Quote, domestic demand is equally weak as global demand, say Yi Fan Yu, Chief Investment Officer and Chief Economist at UBS Wealth Management. She noted that the decline in imports came even as the price of one key import, oil, rose from around $30 a barrel in September 2015 to around $50 last month. Additionally, she noted that in September, the yuan was around 5% weaker than a year earlier. The depreciation does not help China's exports, especially for this low-value added exports, she said. And as I just mentioned, you're seeing the yuan now at its lowest level in 6 years against the dollar. There's a global recession. So here in the States, stocks were down over 185 points. They closed down about 45. So here's why they say it. U.S. stocks fell on Thursday, but closed off session lows as investors, gamblers, digested weak data out of China and rising oil prices, while assessing the possibility of a Federal Reserve hike. Again, weak oil prices, the Dow should go up, because they kept telling us that the cheaper oil is, the more us consumers can buy, because we're not putting it in our gas tank or heating our houses up with the stuff. So, again, the numbers stink. And oil was down, went back up. Crude prices fell when the Energy Information Agency said U.S. crude stocks swelled 4.9 million barrels in the week ending October 7th. They're expecting them to increase 700,000 barrels. But prices bounced back as the market turned its attention to product inventory drawdowns. In the same EIA data, the EIA reported a drop of 3.7 million barrels of distillates, which will include diesel and heating oil, and 1.9 million barrel decline for gasoline. And again, go back to China. September crude imports rose 18% from a year earlier. So, what we have is too much supply and not enough demand. And all they're doing is talking these markets up and down. Dollar clouds rate path. Surge in greenback, long-term bond yields stands to tighten financial conditions. And what this is a story about is what I keep saying. Should the Fed raise rates, these emerging markets submerge. because all that hot, cheap dough, we all know where it's going, into these emerging markets, is driving up their equity markets. And that's what that story is about. Interesting story in the Wall Street Journal. Tech boom creates too few jobs. That's right. And the jobs they are creating, guess what, folks? They're overseas. From made in America to mostly made elsewhere. It goes on to show in 1990s, Micron technology was a successful example of how far the tech industry reached beyond its nexus in Silicon Valley. Based in Boise, Idaho, Micron was founded by Idaho farmers, blah, 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 and all the people that they used to employ. Now they're employing them overseas. Micron had 11,300 workers in the U.S., down from 14,000 in 2000. As of 2013. The company's non-U.S. workforce surged to nearly 20,000, mainly in China and other Asian nations, from 4,800. So here you have it. The dot-com boom happened. Silicon Valley and the jobs were booming. They're not booming so much anymore. And a lot of these companies, they're very small staffs. So they're worth a lot of money, but they don't hire a lot of people. And the production, of course, is mostly over there, not here. Interesting story that keeps making the news. Grocers forge ahead online. This is a very entrepreneur story. Walmart, Kroger, and other food chains feel they must meet Amazon's challenge. The new push by Walmart Stores, Inc., Kroger Company, and other food retailers into the online grocery business is about to face even tougher competition from Amazon. So Amazon's planning to build brick-and-mortar convenience stores that offer fresh foods for sale and give customers the option to purchase shelf-stable goods for delivery, or they can pick them up at the curb. So, here's the deal. The more they sell online, whether it's food, clothing, or anything else, the less impulse shopping that you have. You know the story. You never go food shopping when you're hungry because you're going to buy a lot of stuff that you normally wouldn't buy. But if they ship it to you and you don't go in there, then guess what? You're only going to get what you ordered. So the impulse buying habit is going to go way down. And even when you're going out for clothing or anything else, you see something you like that you didn't think you were going to get, you might buy it. That's, of course, if you have a job. So this trend isn't going to be very good for gross sales. Cuts help CSX damp declines. CXS, this is a rail company, said Wednesday that third quarter revenues fell 8% as plunging coal shipments, a key business for freight lines, kept pressures on the railroad operator. I mention this because coal, fossil fuels, there's going to be a continued decline in their usage. And you're seeing more wind farms, and again, beyond wind, solar, geothermal, biofuel, they're going to keep replacing them. And profits are going to keep going down. Interesting story here in the toilet paper of record. Soda giants back, then lobby against public health. The beverage giants Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola have given millions of dollars to nearly 100 prominent health groups in recent years, while simultaneously spending millions to defeat public health legislation that would reduce America's soda intake, according to public health researchers. So they're paying them off. But we won't call it that. We'll call it like they do with the politicians that get campaign contributions rather than bribes and payoffs. Here are the facts, folks. In one instance, cited the nonprofit group Save the Children, which had actively supported soda tax campaigns in several states, did an about-face and withdrew its support in 2010, the group had accepted, you ready for this? $5 million grant from Pepsi and was seeking a major grant from Coca-Cola. Yeah, isn't that nice? Responding to the new research, Save the Children said in a statement that they're full of crap and they're just putting out a lot of bullshit. How about that? One after another. The NAACP and Hispanic Federation had publicly opposed anti-soda initiatives despite disproportionately high rates of obesity in black and Hispanics. Coke made more than $1 million in donations to the NAACP and more than $600,000 to the Hispanic Federation. The groups did not respond to requests for comments because they have nothing to say. They're sellouts, one after another. Hey, you know what's missing in America? Morality. This is no different than the politicians getting, as I said, campaign contributions. Look in the mirror, America. Trump and Clinton, a mirror image of everything that this country's about. All this campaign is about personalities and name-calling. Nothing of any real substance about policies. Speaking of which, fake accounts at Wells Fargo raised alarm starting in 2005. The article goes on to detail how people working for Wells Fargo complained about the phony accounts that were being set up, and you know what they got for it? Fired. But that guy who was running the show, John Stumpf, the former, he quit on Wednesday, he's leaving with $133 million. Crime pays in America. It pays around the world in this neo-feudal society. Well, you call it, you know I read about it. They call them the economic elite. Here they are. He won't pay for his crimes. No, he gets a lot of dough to retire. But, as well as the political nobility, could you imagine us pulling a stunt that Hillary Clinton pulled and the FBI giving us a break like that? Not a chance. Hey, you need some proof? Study finds disparities in arrest for marijuana. Look, people are getting high all the time. They haven't been able to stop this stuff. States are legalizing it. It's been a lot of baloney to criminalize it in the first place. It's only to keep the United States military-industrial complex, you know, the prisons and the police going well. Officials made, you ready for this? I gotta say it, assholes, made 574,641 arrests last year for amounts of marijuana intended for personal use. Is that a waste of taxpayers' money? Is that ruining a lot of people's lives while a hump like Stump screws millions of people, ruins their lives with fake accounts, and gets a free ride? It's neo-feudal society. Hey, do you hear the latest news? Only made it very quick and then out. John the Slime